Welcome to WildNote. I'm Chris Webster, and we're going to learn about organizing questions on a survey form layout. WildNote is a very powerful tool that allows you to organize your data collection in the most efficient way possible. These efficiencies save you and your organization time and money. You aren't just turning a paper form into a digital one, you're rethinking the collection of data in a digital way. To help your field crews and make it easier to collect just what they need as fast and efficiently as possible, you'll need to organize your questions. First, when you are building a new survey form, it is helpful to see what it actually looks like and how it will behave while you're building it. So let's set that process up first. So let's go to the survey form window under this project. So there's survey forms. We want to make sure the survey form layout demo test is checked because that's the one we are going to modify. So let's go ahead and edit this. So now you can see the survey form layout for this survey. Now up here, we're going to go to Manage Data, and we're going to right-click on Review and Edit and Open Link in New Window. This process may be different depending on the browser that you're using and the system that you're on. So now I have the windows side by side. You have the survey form layout over here, and then you have now this window over here. And here we're going to select a survey for data entry, and the survey form layout demo test. It matches this over here. So I'll select that, start collecting data. And now you can see that we have all this over here, and we have all this over here, okay? So this is the back end of this form. This is what it looks like on the web. This is what it generally looks like in the field on a mobile device, and this is what it looks like when you're building it. This is just a sample survey form, and as you can see, we have a bunch of questions, but no real organization. It looks like we have an administrative section, and then some questions about birds and trees. So I think we should start by creating a section for the administrative data and a section for the birds and the trees. So as we can see here, we have a field labeled Section 1 Administrative. However, the type is just a heading label. So let's go in and change that first. We'll change that heading label to a section, and that is going to be right down here. So let's do that, and then I'll click Save. So now this is a section, okay? If I go over here and I refresh, and that's usually Control-R or Command-R depending on what you're on, now you can see I have an administrative section over here, but I need this name and employee number inside of it. So now I'll come back over to the left side here, and this little icon right here, this is drag to move under section. When I click and drag that, anything I can pull that under will highlight, and then I can drag it and drop it, okay? And I'm gonna do the same for employee number. I'm gonna do that. And now you can see that name and employee number right there. However, they're reversed. So I can drag on this one right here and then make them how I want them. Now, when I refresh this screen, we now have a section with a name and an employee number. And I can reduce that section and I can see it just like that. Okay? When I had this set up before, there's a line here. I had this line because it was separating the heading label I had and everything else. Well, now that I have this in a section, the line is a bit redundant, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Okay, so let me refresh over here. And the line is gone. All right. So if you look at my form, I have basically two initial questions. What are you recording, a bird or a tree? So I really don't want any of this stuff to show up unless I'm recording a bird. I want all the bird stuff to show up. If I'm recording a tree, I want all the tree stuff to show up. So, and I could record more than one bird and more than one tree. So the way we're going to handle this is I'm going to create what's called a repeater. So let's go down to the bottom. We'll do add question. I'm going to select the repeater option here. And the repeater for this one is going to be called bird. Okay. And I'm going to create another repeater, and I'm going to call it tree. So let's go down here, type tree. Okay, now I'm going to take these, and I'm going to drag them up a little higher. Let me drag them both there. I've got my screen blown up so you guys can see this. So I'm going to drag these up under what are you recording, because I'm going to want that bird repeater there, and I'm going to want that tree repeater there. Okay. I'm not done yet though. So now what I need to do is drag all the bird questions into the bird repeater. So is this a bird? I'm going to drag that into the bird repeater. Now it's under there. How many birds are there? I'm going to drag this under the bird repeater. And notice I don't just drag it into this area. I drag it onto the repeater question itself. And here's another one. Drag it under there. All right, now I've got some tree questions. I'm going to drag this under tree. How many trees are there? Is this a tree is another question down here. Okay, now let's refresh over here and see what we have. All right, looking good. So now I've got how many birds are there? What kind of bird is this? Is this a bird? That doesn't really make any sense. So let's change this around and say, yes, this is a bird. What kind of bird? Let's say that. And then how many birds are there? Okay. Now let's refresh this and see what it looks like. All right. Is this a bird? No. What's a bird? And yes. So what kind of bird is this? I've got some choices in there. And then how many birds are there? And you can see this is a counter, so I can just count up right here. Really handy when you're on mobile. All right, so let's do the trees now. So the trees are also out of order. Is this a tree? Yes, that's a tree, so we'll check that there. How many trees are there? And what kind of tree is this? We need to make these so they kind of look like the other one. So what kind of tree is this? And now how many trees are there? Okay, so take a look at that. Let's refresh this. And you can see now the trees make sense. And it matches what the bird looks like. Okay, now I want to do a couple more things here. I think I've got this photos repeater down here. Photos and documents and videos, they're always repeaters. So it means you can take more than one. So I'm going to take this photos one right here, and I'm going to drag this up under tree. And then I want it to be the last thing in trees. And it also has an error right here, so I'm going to fix that. We don't need a capital H. Let's do that. Click Save. Let's go over here and refresh and see what it looks like. Okay, so now within this tree repeater, I can now take photos, okay? I can create more photo ones, and I probably would for the birds, but just for the sake of argument, let's put a video one in for the birds. I only want video of birds. That's how my company rolls. Okay, so we've got videos there, and now let's refresh this. And we'll go ahead and leave documents outside of the repeater, but let's make it a little more professional and call it documents. Okay. So that's outside the repeater. That's okay. Let's refresh this screen and see what we have. All right. Now let's make it so these things only appear when we want them to appear. Okay. We're going to use conditional logic to do that. Now, instead of using conditional logic on each one of these bird questions and including this video one, and then each one of these tree questions, we can use conditional logic on just the bird question right here. So if we choose edit and I go down here and add condition, I'll choose the question and it says, what are you recording? And I'll keep it at equal to. And since I'm working on the bird one here, when they answer bird, then the bird repeater will show up. Okay. We'll click save there. Let's do the same thing on tree. Add condition. What are you recording is equal to tree. Click save. Click save. Okay, so let's go over here and refresh. Now you should see that my form is well cleaned up compared to what it looked like before. And this is great for using on mobile. So now I can come in here and say, what are you recording? Bird. There, I get the bird repeater. Or tree. I get the tree repeater. Now let's say you're recording birds and trees. Okay, so you might not want this to be a radio button because radio buttons only give you one choice. You can only select one of the choices. So I can come back here and change this from radio buttons to checkboxes. And then when I click save, I can come back over here, refresh. Now, okay, now I'm recording birds and I can hit the repeater and add another bird and I can add another bird. Oh wait, I just found a tree. So let's go back up here. And now I'm recording trees. And those, since the order is the way that it looked here, I'm going to come back down here. Now I have a tree repeater. I'm going to add a tree, and I can just keep on going down the line. Now wait, I want to come back up here. There's another bird. It's going to go right following on the bird repeaters. And now I found another tree, and it's following the tree repeaters. So you can see all that there. If I click save here, it'll take me out of the edit screen, and now I can just see all that stuff. All right, so that's it. Hopefully you learned something about creating forms and organizing forms. Check out the other videos in the WildNote library for information on conditional logic and other wizardry, and for anything related to using WildNote. Thanks.